Year 1961, Elvis Presley dominates the international charts. In Berlin, the GDR builds the wall right through the center of the city. The Soviet cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin becomes the first human to fly into space. And in Geneva, the Jaguar E-Type is presented to a fascinated public. It's exciting and breathtaking. It is the standard measure of all sports cars. The Jaguar E-Type. The miniskirt and its long hood characterize the style of the sexy 60s. The E-Type is the sports car of the century whose shape still quickens the pulse.
Yeah, it's a great car. It's simply one of the best, most beautiful cars, if not the most beautiful car ever built, I must say.
The most beautiful car ever built is also just too good to have a successor. Those responsible at Jaguar wait for almost 40 years before they dare continue the legend. From E, now follows the F-Type. It drives with a heavy mortgage in the small trunk. The story of the predatory cat begins in 1931. After building sidecars for motorcycles for 9 years, William Lyons now builds the first car in Blackpool, the SS1, a sedan. In 1935, Lyons presented the first car in the style of a true Jaguar, the SS100. The SS100 wins race after race, and despite this, is still an affordable sports car.
The philosophy was to build fast cars, to build great cars, and to build low-cost cars.
In the light of recent events, after the war, Lyons changes the SS quickly to Jaguar, and the new XK series wins a lot of races and beauty prizes.
Jaguar has always made the best-looking cars. You know, in fact, a lot of the British cars were really sharp-looking, but the Jaguar always had great design.
Jaguar's success story begins in Le Mans with the new C-Type. The C-Type wins the 24-hour race in 1951 and 1953. Under the long hood sits the engine of the XK120. One of the most beautiful racing cars ever built, the Jaguar D-Type, which is used in 1954 at Le Mans. One can already see many similarities with the E-Type, which would come later.
We all want to drive, you know, because it's so famous, the shape. It started a new era in sports cars. You've got to remember the D-Type was really built for Le Mans. It was never very fast anywhere else, but only at Le Mans.
At Le Mans, however, the D-Type is unbeatable. It wins the Endurance Classic 3 times in a row. Its acceleration is sensational for the time, taking less than 5 seconds to get to 100. Its partly self-supporting bodywork almost revolutionary. The Jaguar E-Type, the star of the Geneva Motor Show in 1961. The audience is electrified at the sight of this shape.
Yeah, it was simply a sensation at the time when it came out. Especially the price-value ratio was sensational. And it cost just half as much as the Ferrari or Maserati at the time.
The response was, the audience was stunned. We had never seen anything like this before. Even Enzo Ferrari offered his congratulations.
Whereas it was not initially even sure if the E-Type would be able to be exhibited in Geneva at all. because the car was only finished at the last minute, and test driver Norman Dewis had to rush the show car from Coventry to Geneva in record time.
I left Coventry at 7:45 in the evening, and I was there for 10 to 10 following morning. So 11 hours, and the average speed was 68 mile an hour for the whole trip.
At the time, although development of vehicles consumed only a fraction of the time compared to today, and the E-Type was largely developed from the D-Type and its street version XKSS, the time ran out for the engineers from Coventry to reach production stage.
I'd already had a prototype, what we call E2A. That was between the D-Type and the E-Type. It was just a one-off special. So I did all the development on that, and then when we introduced the E-Type, the rear suspension, everything had been tested and completed for the E-Type. So the development time came down to 9 months, where normally it would have taken about 18 months.
The independent suspension and four-wheel disc brakes of the E-Type were futuristic and high-tech at the time.
The handling of this rear axle was awesome for the time. With this construction, it was possible to minimize the unsprung mass at the wheels, which is tantamount to good grip and as such proved very, very successful.
Spectacular also at the time, the structure of the body.
It's the whole concept, because this car has a so-called monocoque construction. The interior in the trunk area is in a well region, and the front part is provided with a subframe. And even during the design of the vehicle, one assumed that one did not opt for a six-cylinder, but something larger. And so finally, this setup was used.
The engine initially came from the previous XK150S.
The engine was a fascinating unit, built from 1948 to 1986 in the XR6 R3. Double overhead cylindrical studs, aluminum heads, hemispherical combustion chambers, and an incredible long-stroke engine with a very high torque and a wonderful sound.
The body of the E-Type is more than just a shape. It's a work of art. The flat, elongated bonnet testifies in an almost indecent manner of animal power and endurance. The effect on mini-clothed ladies was enormous back then. Whoever drove an E-Type in the 60s clearly belonged to the very wild ones of the country.
It is certainly the combination of shape and performance of the car, as almost always in cool cars. And there is, of course, a certain mystique around this, and a certain lifestyle factor, the chili in the soup. And this is a Jaguar, so this is a pretty unbeatable combination. If you see a Jaguar E standing from 200 meters, you can immediately recognize it as the Jaguar E.
The E-Type is exhibited as one of the very few cars at the Museum of Modern Art in New York. Jackie Stewart once said that the E-Type is the most spectacular mass-produced car that has ever been built. No other car has the symmetry, the lines, and the sheer beauty of the E-Type.
I'm British, and I feel like the identity of it as a power within a kind of elegant body, which is obviously comes from this animal, the Jaguar. I feel I can associate with somewhat the feline character. So yeah, I've always had a soft spot for them as cars.
With its powerful engine, disc brakes, and independent suspension, the E-Type is predestined for the racetrack. The E-Type is very successful in smaller GT championships and the American club sport, but mainstream success was not achieved. In winter 62-63, a lightweight version of the Jaguar E-Type was designed for racing, the lightweight. The best-known lightweight is the low-drag E-Type Fastback, which was originally built for the German racing driver Peter Linde.
The lightweights from 63 to 64 were faster than the Ferrari 250 on the track.
But the E-Types often failed because of their reliability. The frustrated British terminate their 1964 racing commitment after the production of only 12 lightweight races. Today, there's an exclusive cup for models of Series 1, the E-Type Challenge. Company founder Sir William Lyons is completely surprised by the success of his car and of its status as a sex symbol, probably thanks to the longest hood in the world.
Yeah, at the time it was also just the form that polarized, and even contemporary cartoonists call it the proverbial penis on wheels.
Older men today appreciate the raging phallic symbol for very different qualities. Because with a little sensitivity, the E-Type drives as smoothly as a house cat.
When you've had an E-Type, there's nothing like it. It's just a unique car to drive, the comfort, the speed, just the power of it, and the looks of it. It's just a fantastic car.
At a certain age, you should be careful with something like that, only with a doctor's prescription.
There are no E-Types on prescription. A good Series 1 now costs 100,000 euros. The Series 2 from 1968, which was not very popular with collectors, is somewhat cheaper. The 1971 Series 3 comes with a newly developed 12-cylinder for the US market and is regarded more as a cruiser than a sports car, but also has many fans.
For me, the E-Type is one of the best cars that's ever been made, and there's no doubt about that. It's a real icon.
The 1973 oil crisis meant sales of the icon fell into the abyss. Jaguar said goodbye to the E-Type in 1975 with a limited edition of 50 models of the black roadster with right-hand drive. While fans still mourned the end of the E-Type, in September 1975, Jaguar presented a successor, the XJS. Large, heavy, and with poor use of space, the XJS is not a sports car like the E-Type, but a comfortable coupe or convertible.
The XJS was initially unpopular. It looked too American, very Camaro-like, and was probably designed for the Americans. For me, this car is not a direct sequel.
The XJS is anything but a race car, but race team owner Tom Wilkinshaw gives the cat legs, and so the Fat Jag immerses into the European Touring Car Championship, in which it gets very turbulent. In 1984, the heavy XJS wins the European Championship. 1988 and 1990 again, a Jaguar wins at Le Mans. From 2000, Jaguar even starts in Formula One, but sports boss Niki Lauda cannot prevent the Formula One adventure from being unsuccessful, and it is ticked off after 4 years as a gaffe. As a combination of XJS and a little E-Type, from 1996, the Jaguar XK8 rolls through the streets. The Jaguar XK8 is the first Jaguar with a V8 engine. The performance from 284 horsepower enables the noble coupe to sprint on straights, but it is slowed down in corners with a soft, comfortable chassis. But like the XJS, the XK8 lives in the shadow of the glitter and glamour of days gone by. In 2006, the successor of the XK8 arrives, the XK or XKR. The glory of the E-Type should also radiate from it.
XK8 and XKR for me are the successors to the XJS, but have nothing to do with the E-Type, nothing.
Not a second E-Type, but still a real Jaguar. 510 horsepower strong XKR is distinguished by its cool, sporty understatement. On the racetrack, the Cat turns out to be a successful mix of glider and racer. Oh, back there, fog warning. Wow, this is incredible. Here we are in the new XKR 5-litre supercharged V8 with a compressor. And the thing really pushes straight over 500 horsepower. Whoa, here it goes onto the curb. Real work here. Now, this is nothing about folding the collar of the polo shirt up. This is properly connected to sweat. Boy, boy, oh boy. But what a lot of fun. And where can you drive a full-in Jaguar on the track? Yeah, let's see. Turn chassis, wow, amazing. Normally I would expect to have a real issue here getting under control. I've been driving in race mode, so everything is switched off. There's also oversteering when you come out from the corner. Oh, here in 4th gear and drifting around the corner, not bad. It lets itself be positioned very well and easy to control. Car is really very easy to drive here. And at the back it's smoking. I think the tyre will sound and smoke after 20 laps. Since 2011, the XKRS provides even more sound from the exhaust and even more smoke on the track with 550 horsepower and a top speed of 300 kilometers per hour. Jaguar and the search for a successor to the E-Type. In a study for a new XK, the first concept of the F-Type is shown in 2001.
I was trying to use design, and in this case form, to capture some of the spirit of E-Type, but in something that was really derived from XK180.
But it remains with the spirit of the E-Type. The beautiful F-Type doesn't go into series for the time being. In 2011, Jaguar dares to get close to their icon with the CX-16 Study, a modern interpretation of the E-Type. The CX-16 is closest to the classic of all models so far. Front engine, 6 cylinders, and a tail that looks as if it was originally drawn with a new pen. Far from the E-Type, but just as stunningly beautiful is another Jaguar study, also shown in 2011, the CX-75. But it comes a flash in the pan, celebrated today, forgotten tomorrow. Paris, September 2012. The rich and famous are not on their way to another cocktail party. They want to be there when Jaguar again presents a genuine sports car, the F-Type, almost 40 years after the end of the legend. With the F-Type, Jaguar returns to the fast lane to hunt. Favorite targets? Porsches, Aston Martins. The F-Type is available with 6 and 8-cylinder engines. The power ranges from 340 to 495 horsepower. The top speed is up to 300 kilometers an hour. But it won't overtake the legend.
If you put me in an F-Type and remove the logos, I don't know where I am. If you put me in an E-Type set and remove the logos, I know the moment I get in which car it is.
Even if fans hope for a new E-Type, the F-Type doesn't connect with anything to the legend except for a few design elements. The F-Type should be a follower and not a copycat. Whether F-Type, XKR, or XJ, every Jaguar is special, but only one made it into the elite of automotive giants as a style icon, as a sex symbol, and an evergreen, the E-Type.
There will never be a car like this. The car is immortal, and everyone who has one can congratulate themselves.